All right, well, we've got ourselves a round two here, a game two coming up tonight in the NBA playoffs, not to mention the all-important Madison Square Garden game one, round two. I feel like it's been a hot minute since the Knicks have been this relevant, but yes, they are relevant, and they get to take on the Indiana Pacers here tonight. We get to tackle both games with you guys here today live on the NBA Tip-Off Show, and we certainly do appreciate it. And we get, because we love you guys so much, we gave you Bryan Power. And that's exactly what we got rolling in here today. BP in the house. I'm not sure who hates me, but here we are, my man. It's always good to see you. And you got to love that we have an opportunity here to do a show about two of the better games here, I think, tonight. I'm looking very forward to seeing, number one, how Denver reacts after a loss at home. Can't go down 2-0. They know that. We know that. And also, are the Knicks as good as this line thinks they are? And that's where we'll start here, BP. 6 is what it was, certainly yesterday. 5.5. Now we're starting to see 216.5, 217s for a total. What do we do here, BP? This is an impressive number for a New York Knicks team here to be laying against Indiana, no?
Yeah, I think it is a touch high, to your point, Joe. But I also think the Knicks are a decidedly better team than Indiana, and the books are aware of that. I would have made the number 4.5. They had to open it a shade high. Market came in on the underdog. Look, the Knicks have a decided edge in a few areas in this series. Defense and rebounding. The Pacers, give them credit for getting here, but they beat up a downtrodden, injury-riddled, coached by Doc Rivers Bucks team. And it's going to be a lot different here against the Knicks. The Pacers are a great team at home, but the Knicks, I expect them to win this series pretty convincingly. As a matter of fact, this morning on the morning wager, I said I think it's worth throwing a little bit of couch change on Knicks in 5. You can get that at plus 310 at DraftKings, Joe. And I think the Knicks do make short work of the Pacers in this series. As far as game one goes tonight, look, I expect Jalen Brunson to have a very big game. I expect him, quite frankly, to have a very big series. He averaged 35 points in the regular season against Indiana. We know, going back to what I said at the outset, Indiana defensively, they tend to struggle. They still gave up a fair amount of points to the Bucks, even without Giannis. So the Knicks are going to score. What's interesting, we talk about this a lot in college basketball, the concept of a pace war. College teams can play at drastically different tempos. You don't see that as much in the NBA, but in this series, Indiana number 2 in pace, Knicks dead last in pace. Always my opinion, easier to slow an opponent down than it is to speed them up. Indiana's got to speed the tempo up. I just don't know if they're going to be able to do it that successfully, especially at Madison Square Garden. So I like the Knicks for sure in the series. Like I said, you can get them plus 310 to win in 5 games. I did not have a wager, as a matter of fact, on game one, no client play or anything, but I do lean to New York taking game one and probably game 2, quite frankly.
So you sound pretty big on New York in this one.
Yeah.
You like them for the series. You think it's just this is a class above here that the Pacers are going with? Is that what you're buying?
Yeah, I mean, again, Halliburton's not 100% either. That's troubling. Right. I think Indiana, again, you tip your cap. They got here to the second round, but they got a really fortunate matchup, Joe, with Milwaukee in round 1. And quite frankly, when Milwaukee was closer to full strength in the regular season, Indiana did well in that head-to-head. They took 4 of the 5 regular season meetings with the Bucks. That was just an ideal first-round matchup for them. This is far less ideal, like I talked about. The Knicks are so great on the boards, and I think they're really, really going to dominate on the boards here. Indiana shot the lights out against the Knicks in the regular season. I will give them that. If they can do that, then they've got a puncher's chance. But I don't think they're going to shoot as well as they did in those 3 regular season meetings, particularly from 3. I think that's where you could see some offensive aggression from the Indiana side relative to the regular season.
All right, so let me play devil's advocate here. First of all, Pistons in 5. AO in the house. In shorts, always a pleasure to see him. I guarantee you the Pistons are definitely playing golf with the Heat in Cancun. But this just feels real high, this number here. Or maybe I'm high. That could be too. But it feels like this is just a tad much here, especially you've got a Knicks team, by the way, that is coming off a very physical series with Philadelphia. Now they're taking on a team, which, by the way, was one of the slowest tempos that we've seen between both of those two teams. Now they're going to take on a team that's going to want to get out and run. And we all know good old Tibbs and his teams, it's not like them to wear down as a series goes on and the playoffs go on, because he literally drives everyone into the ground. Are you worried here that if they can't slow down the Pacers, they're in trouble, the Knicks, are they not?
Well, here's the thing. I've read a lot about the depth advantage that the Pacers have. And they do have a depth advantage up and down the bench. But you kind of reference it. Tibbs, I think, is going to counteract that by just playing his best players a lot. Now, if the series does go long, that may have a negative effect. They may wear down late. I don't know. I just think the Knicks are a decidedly better team than Indiana. And, I talked about what a fortunate matchup Indiana had, Joe, in round one. The Knicks did not have a fortunate matchup in round one with Philadelphia. As a matter of fact, the way I had the East power rated coming into the playoffs, I had the Knicks number 2 and the Sixers number 3. That's if you're the number 2 seed in a conference and you're drawing what I have is power rated as the 3rd best team in the East in round one, that's a tough break. The Pacers and Bucks, I had those teams 4-5, and then Orlando and Cleveland, I had those teams 6 and 7. So it was a little wonky the way the matchups broke. I don't know. I'm going to stand by what I've said, Joe, and say the Knicks are the better team. I do agree the line feels a touch high, which is why I didn't want to lay it. There's a number of angles I've got for this series that I'm kind of looking at, that if something doesn't happen tonight, I'm going to look at, coming back and hammering it in game 2. I really wanted to look at DiVincenzo, for instance, in the player prop market, but considering how well he played in that closeout game against Philadelphia, is he going to play? Because everything's high on him coming in here. So I kind of want to. I like to play guys off a bad game, and he's coming off a good game. So I wanted to pause on that. The total. I talked about this, actually, believe it or not, we had a question on first pitch. Someone asked a basketball question there. And I said, I would love to see game 1 go over tonight so I could come back with the under in game 2. Because I think if tonight does go over, we're going to probably get, a total a couple points higher in 2 days. And then, we'll see, if the Knicks dominate tonight, okay, then then I may come back and fire with Indiana because we'll get a fat line. Or if the Knicks don't cover, maybe there's values on them in game 2. So I am really taking a wait and see approach with this game 1 because there's a lot of things that I could be wanting to hammer in game 2.
Well, we all know nobody enjoys a fat line like you do, BP. Let me ask you this. DiVincenzo, by the way. I don't know
what that means.
3 games in the regular season against this Pacers. They won 2 out of 3, I think, the Pacers did against the Knicks this year, right? The dude averaged 24 points a game in those 3 games. So you mentioned his props are a bit high, or at least they seem high, but in 3 games, the dude averaged 24. He shot 36% from beyond the arc there. So call me crazy. He feels like almost if it ain't broke, don't fix it. A guy like DiVincenzo, we should be absolutely looking at his numbers up and over. For whatever reason, he has a lot of success here against this team.
Yeah. I think the most attractive thing with DiVincenzo, looking across the board at all his props, 4 or more threes. You can get plus money at that, plus 130, I believe, to make 4 more threes. And I think that's better than his point prop, Joe, because if DiVincenzo goes over his points prop, I think very likely it's because why? He's making a lot of threes. That's what we saw in the 2 games in the Philadelphia series. He went over his point prop because he made a lot of threes. So I would say that is something, if you want a plus money prop, that would be something I would attack right there. DiVincenzo 4 or more made threes, because if he goes over his point prop, it's going to be because he's nailing those threes.
Yeah, well, and if that's the case, then, and the shout out to those of you joining us live here today in the chat rooms. EQ in the house. He is somebody that is also one of a few guys here that have been looking at the total going over 217 here. Also, Raven Ron in the house. Shout out to him. He thinks the Pacers are going to be running wild on the Knicks, but there seems to be an awful lot of love for the over. I don't hate it because if we're looking at an over in this game, and again, we're talking about a Pacers team that dropped 120 or more in 4 games against Milwaukee, who, that's not easy any which way you cut it. They still were the number 1 or number 2 team in points per game during the regular season. We know what they're capable of offensively. So, now I don't compare Milwaukee's defense to the Knicks' defense, but the pace is the big difference here. It's like Milwaukee had no problem running with Indiana there. I don't know that the Knicks can slow them down for 4 quarters, which means there's going to be stretches where we're going to get a lot of points, and it just feels like DiVincenzo's a guy. If the pace is up there, he's going to be one of the first guys to be like, let's go, let's run. It's what he did in the 3 games that he had all that success in the regular season. The Pacers like to run. DiVincenzo's got no problem running. This feels like an over all day long, though, doesn't it, BP?
All right, looking at the total, look, the recent results suggest yes. The Knicks are 9-1-1 to the over their last 11 games. Indiana is very similar, 9-2 to the under their last 11 games. And we talked a little bit about this on the morning wagers. Well, look, playoff basketball is a lot different than regular season basketball, right? But the totals for those 3 regular season games between these teams closed 234.5. 235.5, 248.5. And oh, by the way, the total that closed the game where the total closed 248.5, yes, that was on December 30th, but they went over that number, Joe, by a lot. They combined for 266, and that was without overtime in regulation. Now, the one under was played here in Madison Square Garden at the Knicks pace. There was only 214 points scored in that one. But, in terms of value, if you're comparing regular season to now, there's no doubt that the value is on the over. And then you look at these recent results these teams have turned in. It's very understandable to me why the chat and many bettors would be attracted to the over in this matchup. I'm just hoping that total inches a little bit higher for game 2, because I don't know. You know me. Yep. I'll want to come back with the under.
Well, no, and I hear you. And listen, I do think it's correlated. And I think, Tyler in the chat room brings up a good point. There is a lot of correlation going on here with this series. I think certainly with the Knicks, when they're successful, we're probably looking at closer to unders, if not in the full game. Certainly team total wise here. I think in this particular game tonight, if you think they can stay within 6, 5.5 here, and you're looking at taking the Pacers, then you're taking their team total over. How the hell it's only 105.5 is beyond me. It's starting to creep up 106s too, but you can still get 105.5 minus 120 right now in a lot of spots. If you think they can stay within it, the damn Knicks total is 110.5. So if the Knicks are getting 110.5, well then, damn, man, how are we not flying over this total, and B, got to give Indiana their, they may not cover, but I'll be damned if they ain't getting 106 points in this game here, BP.
Yeah, the one game script that would be terrible for Indiana, obviously, if they're held, but if they're held below their team total, they're not.
They're not even close.
Yeah, right. That is absolutely correlated. I agree 110% on that. Yes, if you like Indiana a little bit, I actually think betting the team total is probably better than taking the points. Because, hey, even because then you're covered if Indiana really stinks defensively tonight and they give up a bunch of points too. Well, you're still okay then. You don't need to worry about them staying close. So, yeah, I actually, if you like Indiana, I agree. Take the team total over rather than take the points.
Yes. And I will say this, too. I know I saw, was it AO was telling me Obi Toppin revenge game. Like, please. They don't even, he's going to walk into the Garden tonight. Nobody's even going to, he's probably going to have to show ID. That's how excited everyone was when he was at the Knicks. No, if they ran him over out in front of the Garden, they'd have no idea who the hell he was. He did have a pretty good opening series, though, for Indiana. He came off the bench, 12 points a game, 50% shooting. He's going to have a lot harder time, I think, in this series here against the Knicks. I did see his 3.5-point field goals at 1.5. And it is juiced to high hell to the under. So it doesn't looks like the perimeter defense of the Knicks here has a lot of people fading Obi Toppin here tonight from the outside. Do you agree with that, BP? Think he's going to have a lot harder time off the bench than he did against Milwaukee?
That's not something I was really even considering, to be quite honest with you. I don't know.
Well, he averaged, let me tell you what he averaged. So during the regular season, he averaged 1.2 made threes in the regular season. So 1.5 is a little lofty. So I get the under, but you also got to take into consideration the history with the Knicks. And I wouldn't at all be shocked to fade his ass in this series in a lot of games, because that would be pretty impressive if he comes out and starts bombing away and taking advantage of the Knicks here. I don't think he can.
Yeah, and like I said, the Indiana's 3-point shooting was just ridiculous in those regular season games. There was a game where every game they shot well from three. They shot 48% from three, 39% from three, and 53% from three. Again, I think it was one of the first things I said when we started, Joe. I just don't see that being replicated here. The Knicks, oh, by the way, did not shoot well from three in 2 of the 3 games, 21% and 31%. I think the Knicks are going to look to take away the 3, make Indiana come inside, which Indiana's going to like to do. They're going to want to get in transition. I think, that's an obvious way you speed this game up. But I just do not think the Pacers are going to have the same success they had from 3 in this series that we saw in those regular season games. And by the way, these teams have not played since February, so it's been a long time, needless to say.
Yes.
I mentioned the first game was December 30th. The other 2 were played pretty close in early February, the 1st and the 10th to be exact.
Sonny in the house joining us in. Good to see you, Sonny. He says, pretty funny. I'm looking at taking his prop 10 points. I'm guessing that's he's probably 10.5 points here, Obi Toppin, for the game. And if he goes over that, he might very well have 2 threes. But I don't know if we're going to get to that point with him. What is it, 10.5? Let
me bring that up here real quick.
Yeah, it feels like that's extreme. This would be a good buy low spot, because I know everyone's, it's an Obi Toppin revenge game. The hell it is. The Knicks are glad to see him. Trust me. The Knicks defense is going to be very glad to see him here. Let's see. Obi Toppin is going to be, look at this, points, right? I'm guessing. So Obi is 9.5. So there you go. 9.5, and it's still juiced to the under is what I'm seeing here.
Yes.
So that might not be a bad way to go there. Not a bad way to look at that at all.
Yeah, well, you know what is really the everybody and their mother knows that Jalen Brunson's going to have a big game in this series, because just as we bring all the names up as we're looking for those 36, he averaged 35.7, but it is hard going over 36.5. Isn't it? It's all got. As great as he was, and as great as I expect him to be in the series, I don't know if the chat is going to be asking about him or not. Obviously, Brunson's going to have a big spotlight, but over 36.5 is quite the benchmark to want to go with there.
Shout out to Rick in the chat who says Dave Portnoy has a point. I'm going to guess he's referring To you, BP? I'm not quite sure. But pleasure to see you there, Rick. And S. Warrior in the house. He is out for mourning. No longer mourning. He lit a few candles, said a little prayer. Pat Riley came out today, said he has no plans on, trading Jimmy Butler, so he'll be back. So, there is sunshine at the end of that rainbow there, S. Warrior. I am with you. But don't worry, because Donovan Mitchell is going to look really good in a Heat uniform next year. All right, so BP, we've got a couple of guys here to roll through that we went. I agree with Obi Toppin. I think that is fantastic. What about Halliburton? You mentioned he ain't, not 100%, but really who the hell is at this point in the season, right? His prop, it was interesting too. I saw his total points, 17 and a half here. Do we see him having a pretty good game here with the Knicks? Because I would imagine Anunoby is going to be on Siakam. So Halliburton will have, I think, a little bit of easier time. Is that what you're thinking as well?
Yes, and I think we talk about correlation. Halliburton over under that point total is very much correlated to who you like in this game. If Tyrese Halliburton does not go over 17 and a half points, I do not think the Indiana Pacers are doing very well in this game. Conversely, if he does, they obviously have a fighting chance. It's not a guaranteed cover, but yeah, if he stays, if you don't like Indiana, maybe then it's worth a look under 17 and a half, because if he doesn't go over this, in Indiana's in a lot of trouble. Like I mentioned, he did very, very well in the regular season against the Knicks. Yes. And I think his health and his obvious production are paramount here to the Pacers extending this series.
Yep. Also, it looks like his assist prop, Halliburton over 9.5 total assists. I wouldn't mind points and assists, to tell you the truth. I don't know. Let me see what that number is. Points and assists for Halliburton, 26 and a half. Low. Yeah, that it feels real. It feels low. So does the points and assists, 26 and a half for Tyrese Halliburton. He better get at least that.
I agree that points plus assists is better, because there's a lot of times we come on these shows and we're like, oh, what's people are asking in the chat, what's Halliburton's assist total, and it's in the double digits. Well, here it's not. So okay, maybe he doesn't somehow get the 17, but he can make it up in the assist department. I agree. Points plus assists is the best look for Halliburton there over for sure. I would concur with that.
Yeah, let me just I nearly just pissed myself, Rick. He said he's agreeing with you. He said Larry Bird has got a point there, and I nearly almost pissed myself. So great job, Rick. Outstanding as always here, my man, bringing the A game. Woo! Bringing the A game in the chat room here today. Unbelievable on a Monday. Outstanding stuff here. All right, so we've got plenty in this game here coming up. 3-pointers as well. I think somebody in the chat was asking, what are we got for 3-pointers here for, let's see, threes made for Halliburton, 2.5 for him, 1.5 for Obi Toppin, and Pascal Siakam points-wise, too, was another interesting one. But what about Brunson in this game here? Do you think he's going to be the go-to guy? 36.5 is what I am seeing him on points, which feels like an awful lot of points, but he's not going to have much of a choice, right, PP? I mean, where else would the points come from?
Yeah, well, when we pulled these player props up and that number was right in front of our face there, I said, wow, that's high. But again, he averaged 35.7 in the regular season, and we saw what he did against Philadelphia. And, oh, by the way, I don't think we've hit on this enough necessarily. Indiana's bad defensively. That's kind of the byproduct of them wanting to play fast. I think the Knicks are going to get what they want at the offensive end. And if the key for the Pacers against Brunson is not fouling, if Brunson is able to get in the lane and get these guys in foul trouble, Indiana is up against it. They've got to find a way to defend without fouling. Otherwise, it is going to be I would say a long series, but no, it actually wouldn't be a long series if Brunson's able to get these guys in foul trouble. I actually think it would be a short series if that were the case. So, yeah, and it would obviously aid that. I mean, you need him to draw fouls to go over a point total that high.
You do.
You saw the games that he went over against Philadelphia. He was living at the foul line. So, yeah, I think that's the question the folks have to ask themselves. Do you think Indiana can defend without fouling?
Yeah, well, that's and another thing they're going to have to do better here. The Pacers, they got to get some rebounds because the Knicks, if they're going to grab every one of their misses, they're going to continue to dominate in the offensive rebounding category. It's going to be a very, very long series. Well, short series actually, long day for the Pacers. But they can't allow the Knicks to continue to get second chance points, which the Knicks, to their credit, did a hell of a job against the Philadelphia 76ers here. All right.
And I think Mitchell Robinson missed some of those games. Mitchell Robinson missed some of those regular season games, too, and the Knicks still were winning the rebounding battle. That is not a good sign for Indiana. By the way, I think Josh Hart's rebounding total tonight is 12.5. Hello.
That's big. That's big.
That is high. That is really big. That is really, I mean, I know he was like a crazed dog in that series with the Sixers.
Yep.
But wow, 12.5 is high. There might be some value to go the other way.
Huge. I agree. 100% there. And they're, Miles Turner and company are going to have to do their best to try and keep these guys off the boards. I think the best way to do it is to coax Hartenstein and Mitchell to come out to the three-point line and then watch Halliburton pick and roll his ass off, and that's it. Because I don't know how much they're going to try to get into the paint. I think they need to hit a couple of three-pointers early and force those guys to come out and defend on the perimeter. Now, not a whole lot of market movement in this one. It was 6, 5.5. There's not a ton of buyback here. I'm wondering if it'll continue to go down, maybe to 5. I don't know if Indiana's going to get all that much love here. So I think what you see is probably what you're going to get, except for maybe the total might be the only thing that moves before tip-off. Now, the other game number 2 here between Minnesota and the Denver Nuggets. We got a lot of interesting things going on in this game. Those of you just joining us here, shout out. And by the way, don't forget, hit that like button. It's this thing. It's got a thumb. You click it. It's a like. Put your thumb down, BP. No one wants to see that nasty. So yes, just keep that thumb down. But you guys hit the thumb for us. We'd certainly appreciate it. So what we've got right now is a ton of questions, which is intriguing. I did see a couple of guys in the chat room talking about Rudy Gobert now may or may not be going in this game, right? So right now I'm still seeing questionable here, BP. We know Jamal Murray still questionable, which I think is why we saw some movement earlier, which I don't think that should be a big shock to people here. He's been playing banged up for the entire series. I don't see how he's not going to play there. But Gobert popped up around 1, maybe about 2 o'clock today, I think it was. He was on the 1:30 injury report, and it was for personal reasons. No idea what the personal reasons could be.
He had his first child was born. Is
it's
happened.
Already here then. So what's the problem? I mean, just not like hello.
I mean,
kids here.
Is this where I start bragging how I work? I worked in the hospital like the same day as my first child was born. All I had to do was sit in the bed though and type though. I didn't have to play a basketball game.
What is the point of FaceTime if your ass has got to be there the entire time anywhere? Like, take a picture, everybody wins, get back out on the floor, Rudy. Your team needs you here, especially since we're starting to see the movement here. And are you shocked at this number here a little bit? We all think this is kind of a must-win. I don't want to say must-win here for the champs, but it does feel like they don't want to go down 2-0. Nobody wants to go down to 2-0 at this point, especially against a team like Minnesota that apparently has Michael Jordan. I don't know if you know that, right? Did you see Michael Jordan is on the Minnesota Timberwolves? So what I'm wondering here is there any value in this line at 6.5 right now? The total is 207.5. How did you approach this one, BP?
I thought Kendrick Perkins was laying it on a little thick on the pregame show yesterday on ABC with Anthony Edwards with those Michael Jordan comparisons. Okay, he had a great game, let's be honest. And the T-Wolves proved us wrong, Joe. They were outstanding in the clutch in game one. They averaged 2 points per possession in the clutch down the stretch against the Denver Nuggets. I know you and I both thought Denver was the team who was going to execute better in the clutch, and that was simply not the case. Now, it is absolutely no shock to me whatsoever the way the market began to adjust because you have a home team off a game one loss. So, everyone is of the opinion, well, it is must win. They can't afford to lose both home games. So we saw the shift. Then the Gobert news came in and we saw this number move even more. Look, there's not a lot of value playing Denver at this price. It's even as high as 7 now at not just some shops, but most shops. So that's a big number to lay considering they lost outright in game one. Now, what's interesting to me, and I talked about this on the Saturday show with you, Joe, and I've talked about it a lot, is these curious early struggles for the Nuggets. It's not just me talking about it. It's Michael Malone talking about it now, who's the Denver Nuggets head coach. He really ripped his team for the way they started that game. Interestingly enough, they were winning after the first quarter. They were winning after the first half in game one, and the script flipped from that Lakers series. They blew it in the second half. But if you remember, Denver was down 18-4 to start the game one. That's not going to happen again. I think Malone has his team's attention. I think this team is going to come out with its hair on fire, because if it doesn't, the natives could get a little restless perhaps in Denver. I know that, hey, we're still, happy we won the NBA championship last year, but this is the Nuggets have to come out strong in this game to sort of, punch back at these young T-Wolves. Let's see what they have there. And Gobert, make no mistake about it, that is a significant absence if he does not play. You and I talked about it on Saturday, how he was going to be able to, his rebounding props. Sure enough, he had 13 rebounds, I believe, in game one. He did go over his rebounding prop. We really liked him to consistently do that in the series. So if he's not there, one of those key edges that Minnesota has in this series, size, all of a sudden isn't that big of an edge. So that is something obviously worth monitoring. Everyone in the chat's going to want to pay attention to Gobert's status. It is critical, I think, because if he doesn't play, then I think Denver can have its way and run wild in this one.
So, and here's the problem. Let me look at the numbers we've got here right now. It feels like Minnesota still is the biggest public dog of the day, and probably going to be moving forward. Money in the house there. I know he saw that as well. This is exactly the kind of spot where the number continues to rise, BP, that I would want to absolutely jump in and go the other way because the number is probably right. So 6.5 is probably the right number. I thought they played very well, Denver. They did everything that they wanted to do schematically and couldn't get it done because Ant and Naz Reid were unstoppable at the end of that game.
Yes.
But, man, these points continue to drop. If this thing gets to 7, I mean, it's like, are we real? Is there that much separating these two teams? Honestly, no, right?
No, there is not. And I agree. I think it's everyone thinking what you kind of how you introduce the game, Joe, that people are, when the home team loses game one, the natural
they're
reaction
zigzagging their way into
them in game two. And I don't disagree with that thought process. It's just it's number versus situation, right? The number here, you just look at the number in these two teams and you're like, that number's too big. But the situation historically says Denver will bounce back. I think, again, it's just a question of what they can do early. I think if Denver is to cover this spread, they are going to come out strong. Without a strong start, they are not covering this spread. Something else to think about, because the total's low, right? But they didn't go over in game one, despite the fact Minnesota shot 52% and 40% from three. Denver shot 46% and 42% from three. Do we think that the teams are going to collectively shoot that well again? I don't. And if that's the case, then it's probably going to be an even lower scoring game than what we had in game one.
Still seeing Tyler in the chat, Richard Lockhart in the house here. Drew W. all over the Wolves and Ant for MVP here. While he keeps playing the way he did, it's not going to be hard. That is for sure. But this total is interesting to me as well because, if you look back in that game one, that second quarter, there was only 36 total points scored in that quarter. I mean, there was just some horrific shots in that quarter there. Really inefficient and turnovers. It was not a good quarter by either side. But the last three games between these two teams in a regular season, everyone cleared this number. Every one of them. So you got to think, are we going to get another 35, 36, 37-point quarter tonight? No, I don't think we're going to, man. I think the over is the play here.
Wow. Okay. If the game's played at a faster pace, I guess that's the key.
I just think more efficient. I don't know that it has. Okay. I don't know that the pace has got to be there. I don't think the inefficiency in like what we saw in the second quarter there, I don't know if that's going to be there. If the Nuggets are truly back against the wall, their team total 106.5, 107.5. They're not getting that. They're going to have to get that, I think, in order to win this, and not just win it, cover it, because they are laying 6.5, 7.
Yeah, I think we've learned that the only way you cannot go over a team total of 106.5 and cover a really large spread is if you're playing the Miami Heat without Jimmy Butler, like the Celtics did in several of those games in round one.
Yes.
But Minnesota is not the Miami Heat without Jimmy Butler. We know that, okay? They have Anthony Edwards. To your point about that inefficiency that hit the second quarter, from the time Minnesota went up 18-4, which was pretty quick, until the half, they only scored 22 points in about a quarter and a half.
Yes.
That's crazy. Yep. So you're right.
Yep.
We're probably not getting a stretch like that from them. And, we talked about Indiana, whether or not they're covering correlated to their team total. I would concur as well, Joe, on the Denver side. If the Nuggets are to cover this number, they are getting over their team total because, with Edwards, I don't know. I think Minnesota is not going to get held under 100 points here. Something that Denver failed to do in all the regular season meetings, obviously, and in game one.
100.5 Timberwolves total points in this one also. And to your point, because we made a big deal of it in the Lakers series, if we split this game in half, they did cover the first half, if I'm not mistaken, or at least they won the first half. Did they not in game one against Minnesota?
Yeah, so, Jokic had that last shot that covered the spread was 2, and then Jokic made that late shot and they took a 4-point lead in a halftime. Yes.
The spread is 4.5 in the first half here. So the market seems to think Nuggets are coming out flying here, people. Like they are coming out and they're going to mean business.
not to steal Teddy's gimmick with the quotes, but read what Malone had to say. He is. Yes. It's not been lost on him how slow his team is starting. Again, it's just not we talked about this on Saturday. It's not a successful blueprint to fall behind every game. Yes, they were able to come back and oust the Lakers in 5, but you just don't want to do that. It's hard game in, game out to have to. Now, it's ironic that they were winning at halftime and then lost game one, Denver, but, an 18-4 disadvantage to start the game. That's obviously not happening here. And I think the NBA champs probably hear Malone's message loud and clear and do start strong.
Interesting from the prop betting perspective here. Well, they're going to have to start faster. Right? They've started so slow, we know that. But I think Jamal Murray not being 100% has been a big part as to why they have not necessarily gotten off to great starts here. But I do think this is going to be a much more focused effort here. And quite honestly, I think, the Joker might just have to do a little bit more. It is what it is at this point. But they've been there and they've done this before. Jamal Murray, 22.5 total points in this game here. He had 17, right? He went scoreless in the first half, and then he scored a total of 17 in the second half. He played, I believe, 33, 34 minutes. So he played a lot less minutes than what he has been playing in the rest of the postseason games here. So I don't know. Can we expect a full 40 minutes from Murray? It seems to be like the market's fading his total in points here with 22 and a half.
Yeah, and he had that ridiculous game, obviously, the closeout game against the Lakers, where he's surprised nobody saw that coming. And it's funny that everyone's like, oh, I guess he's okay. And then what happens? He's not as effective in game one. This is a very lame answer to your question, Joe, which was a good question, but he's going to be somewhere in between what we saw in game one versus the T-Wolves and game 5 against the Lakers. Now, if he was able to score 17 in game one, you look at this number, 22 and a half. That's not a whole heck of a lot of increase in production you need to get over this number. Again, we've been talking correlation throughout the show. If you like Denver, you probably think that means Jamal Murray's playing a good game. And then that would lend itself to over 22 and a half. If you don't like Denver, if you think Denver's going to struggle, if you think Minnesota, who, oh, by the way, has the number one defensive rating in the league by a wide margin, then you're going to go the other way and you're going to think under. I think a lot of these things are just correlated. It depends on the side you like.
Yeah, and Mike Conley's another guy is interesting too here, BP, because he kind of lit up Denver during the regular season. I mean, he had some tremendous games against them there. I think he only had 8 shots and 1 foul shot in game one, so he did not have as good a game as he has had in the past against them. But his points is 11 and a half. And boy, is there a lot of people running to the window to back Conley, expecting him to have, especially if there's urgency in Denver, where they're expecting, they're expecting Denver to kick it up a notch here. He's going to have to be better than this. He certainly was during the regular season against Denver. He's going to have to be that again tonight for him.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Conley, what he did. He had 14 points in game one. You're right. Only on 8 field goal attempts. He only got to the free throw line once. Now he made 3 threes, which was the whole key. Going back to the Phoenix series, what he did, he finished in double figures each of those last 3 games. Yeah. Had a game with 15, had a game with 18. He really stunk in game 1 of that series. He shot very poorly. He was 2 of 12. But again, I think it's all correlated, Joe. Not to keep coming back to that, but the T-Wolves kind of need an all-hands-on-deck approach. Obviously, it's going to be Edwards leading the way, but Naz Reid is not going to go off the way he did late. Well, I mean, he finished with 16 points, 14 of them in the fourth quarter. That is just something I mean, could he score 16 again over the course of the game? I guess, but that kind of late explosion, I would fade him no matter actually what you think of the game, Naz Reid, because right now you're getting him at the peak of the market.
And Jokic, by the way, over 1.5 threes at plus 120. It's an interesting number.
Yeah.
I'd say, especially if he's not going to get beat up or doesn't want to get beat up in the paint. That is going to be very interesting. What did he get in? How many attempts did he have in the first game, BP, Jokic there? I mean, he'll take a handful, no doubt about it. He'll take the shots.
Well, he made 2, but he took 9, to your point. Yeah,
that's what I mean.
I think they might be, that's something I would absolutely jump on. Also, something we previously have talked about that stuck out to me with Jokic in game 1, he had 9 assists. Now, you look at his statistical profile, okay, that's kind of what he averages anyway. But in the regular season against Minnesota, he only averaged half that. So he was he was getting those assists, something that Minnesota was looking to take away. I thought that was one of the few positive takeaways from the Denver side, that you saw Jokic racking up a high assist total, because he was unable to do that in the regular season against Minnesota. And here he was, racking up his normal number of assists. Again, maybe I don't know if they need him to score more. He was 11 to 25 overall, but the threes were the issue, making only 2 of 9 in that game. I would suspect he's going to be a little bit more efficient, certainly shoot a better percentage in game number 2.
Well, it makes sense, too. Does he really want it? I mean, this is going to be a physical series for the Joker, and he knows it. He's going to get beat up here because that's what Minnesota is built to do, is to beat Denver and beat him up and make life miserable for him. So doesn't shock me that he's taking more and more of those opportunities from the outside. At home, he can't I don't understand this number unless I'm missing something. Over 1.5 threes at plus money for the Joker. Chat, what am I missing? I don't get it. He's going to make 2 tonight.
I think the only thing I could come up with is if Gobert's not in there, is he not? I mean, do we see just less frequency from outside? Is he going to look to do more damage on the inside? I think that's the only argument I could make against that, because you're right. I mean, at plus money to make 2 threes for Jokic is just. It just seems like you should do it on sheer principle. That the only counter I could come up with it is maybe he just tries to live inside if there's no Gobert, which obviously we don't have 100% confirmed right now. But even then, I mean, even if he's taking a lower number of attempts, he's going to shoot a higher percentage. And he made 2 in the last game, so he could certainly do that again.
Yeah. And Lee brings up a good point in the chat room, too. He racked up the assists because Gobert was roaming in the paint, and that's exactly how they're going to play this. So they'll give him the outs. They'll let him shoot as many threes as he wants. I don't think they're going to let him operate in the paint, not with impunity. That's for sure here. I would also think he's going to, and Lee says the same thing, he's going to take those 3 if Gobert continues to do that. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I don't know why they would. But if Gobert is out, let's run this back here. If Gobert is out, Naz Reid is in, then I got to take his overs, right? I got to take his overs on rebounds. I got to take his over on points and rebounds, right? If Gobert ain't playing, and again, I'd be shocked if he is not playing. But he is going to get a hell of a lot more opportunities here, and I don't know if those numbers have gone up or not, but we probably should look and see where he's at right now. He has got Naz Reid 3.5 rebounds. Is he not going to get more than 3.5 rebounds if he plays for Gobert?
I mean, again, so much of that it depends. I think Gobert's status may depend on Mrs. Gobert. Quite frankly, that's the way those things tend to work.
Yes.
Yes. But I mean, if Gobert's out, yes, I would expect to see some action, and then Minnesota, the other guys are going to get some rebounds as well. I think that's something too. If there's no Gobert, Naz Reid over rebounds is a very, very logical pivot in the player prop market.
Yeah. He did, though. Trigger's right there. And in fact, Gobert did also play man-to-man defense as well. But now that it's all on tape, and I think this goes back to your point, BP, Malone is not happy over here. They're going to make some adjustments to it. But any which way you cut it, give me over 1.5 threes for the Joker here. It makes absolutely no sense to me. And I don't know, call me crazy. I think this thing's going over. And I would not be shocked for the team total, because I think that's correlated as well. If you think the Nuggets are covering this number, then their team total of over 106.5 is a play for me. I don't know how they're going to do it. Yeah. They're going to get 110 points to win this game.
Yeah, I don't see a scenario where Denver wins 190. I don't. That just doesn't seem very likely to me. It probably doesn't seem likely to anyone.
Yep. No, I don't either. And Timberwolves, I mean, let's be reasonable. Let's play this back. 100.5. Are they not getting 100.5 points here? I mean, it feels like a 109, 103, 110, 102. It feels like there's no way Denver is keeping the Timberwolves just to double digits.
The only thing I can counter that with is Minnesota had 106 in game 1, and that was shooting 52% overall and 40% from 3. If there's any kind of substantial decline in either of those numbers, then maybe it gets a little hairy there with getting over. But you're right. You think you just naturally, it's like, Minnesota, it's a very good basketball team.
Yes.
Anthony Edwards, how do they not get to 100 points, right? I mean, 100 is just like it's this key number in your head. Like, what? Like, they're going to be held under 100. I mean, how many times was Minnesota held to that point? To your point, Joe, how many times were they held under 100 points in the regular season? I only see like one since March. So 2 actually since March, and 3, 4, and 2 of those were 96, 97. They were held under 100 points, I believe, and I sped through these like 5 times all year.
5 times. That's it, right? Yes.
Yeah. And 3 of those they scored 94. So they only had 2 stinkers, and not being able to dig into the box score who was playing. There was a game against Phoenix late in the year where they only put up 87. Who knows if someone missed that game? There was an 88 where they scored against the Clippers in early March. Who knows if someone missed that game as well? Those were both, as you might expect, dreadful shooting games for the T-Wolves in each instance.
Yeah, Joker, 1.5. I know. Tell me about it, Tyler. That's what I'm saying. It makes absolutely no sense. They're all looking him up in the chat room now going, I don't get it. And Andrew, listen, I get it. If it goes down 0-2, and this seems to be a prevailing thought in here, BP, Denver loses, they don't come back to Denver. Is that an interesting concept? Because I'll tell you right now, Minnesota Timberwolves 4-0, 7-1 plus 700. Minnesota Timberwolves 4-1 plus 600. And I don't know when they're going to be a favorite in this thing and how much are they going to be a favorite. So you can money line roll this over all day long and make a fortune.
Well, look, I said on Saturday, as you know, with you on last call, I said Timberwolves in 6, and that was 5 plus 500 before the game 1 win, obviously. Looked like a great bet because I said, well, do we really think the Timberwolves are going to sweep the Nuggets? Well, I mean, all of a sudden, if they take the first 2 games in Denver, we're having a very different conversation because no one thought that was going to happen. That's probably for a good reason. Again, I don't think the Timberwolves are going to win tonight. But, I still think, that Timberwolves in 6 now is down to plus 350, obviously, after the game 1 result. That changes a lot of things. And again, I just think a young team like Minnesota, it's most likely they'd close out at home. So, I feel pretty good about what I said on Saturday. Timberwolves in 6 at the time, 5-1. I think, again, I'd be shocked if they won tonight. And if it's 1-1, do they sweep? Okay, and let's say they would then, if they could sweep Denver at home, go up 3-1, maybe Denver then stays alive with a game 5 win, and then Minnesota could close out at home, and all of a sudden, it was T-Wolves in 6. I still think that's the most likely outcome for them.
Yeah, well, that's Minnesota 4-2, still plus 350, somewhere in that ballpark there. Obviously, if you think the Nuggets can win this series, they're at plus money now. They ain't going to be a plus money. They win tonight, and this thing is tied up at 1 apiece here. So a lot riding on the line. Still don't know exactly what we're going to get here for I'm still seeing Gobert props available. And are you guys in the chat room seeing them as well? If you're still seeing Gobert props, I would be shocked that he all of a sudden gets pulled last minute here, BP. I don't think they're throwing it on there if they really didn't think he would be available for this game. So, well, there we got it. We got a whole lot going on in this game here. And once again, BP, you're thinking, and we can just do this here for the chat, because I was seeing a whole lot of Knicks love earlier in the chat and a whole lot of Timberwolves love here. So I don't know. Should we put them together, BP? Or do we just flat out take both dogs here tonight? And then count our money tomorrow. What are you thinking? Just take money line Pacers, money line Minnesota. Does that? What do you guys think?
I'm not taking money line Minnesota. I'd be shocked. I'd be shocked if they win both games in Denver, Joe. I'd be shocked.
Well, get ready to be shocked here, because I think that's the only way to go. Listen,
that's what you're
if I'm going to take the 6.5, I'm taking the money line. I'm taking them both because.
Well, and to that point, I've said this before.
What?
Over the last, I think it's 4 or 5 postseasons, the straight up winner does cover the spread 90%. Very rarely does the point spread come into play. I think we saw that in at least one of the Knicks Sixers games. Maybe it was 2. I know there was a Pelicans Thunder game as well where the spread mattered, but it's 90% of the time. If I could do a hard right turn, Joe, when we're talking about lines and that just shocked us.
Here we go again. Another big line. God,
okay, here
divide
we go.
it, don't hide it. Oh, okay. God, what do you got?
I don't know what that means. But on DraftKings, I'm trying to get through this, Joe. On DraftKings earlier today, and it's still there. I cannot believe you can bet the Celtics to win in 4 and to win in 5 at basically the same price. Why would I not just split my wager on both and then guarantee myself to make money? There's no way the Cavs are taking that series beyond 6 games, right? Up until an hour ago, it was plus 190 for the Celtics to sweep and plus 90 for them to win in 5. I kept refreshing. I was looking at my phone and my computer thinking if there was a glitch. I was shocked by that because all you do is, again, people are going to say, oh, well, the Heat were able to win a game against the Celtics.
Right.
Well, one, Coach Spo, your boy, is a lot better than JB Bickerstaff, who has never won a playoff road game, oh, by the way. And how did the Heat win that game? A record-setting performance. They made 23 threes.
Right.
The Cavs are not doing that.
So wait, you're telling me they are both Celtics in 4, Celtics in 5 are the same price?
They were up until now. But it's not much. It's plus 1. I'm looking right now. Celtics to sweep is plus 170. Celtics in 5 is plus 190. I'm looking at it right now on DraftKings, and I don't understand why we all just won't just each throw money and
I don't.
One of those bets is going to win.
Yep.
Right.
I don't believe that. I don't think there'll be a dog in any of those games anyway. I mean, they're not going to be a dog at home, but they're not going to be a dog in Cleveland either. Although Cleveland was really good at home. No, it's not going to be. So you got them at plus money in 4 or 5?
Yeah,
sounds like.
It seems very easy. What am I missing here? Yep. Again, Bickerstaff's never won a road game. So let's just suppose. Yep. And I think, look, the Celtics are going to be double-digit favorites in game 1. We know they're double-digit favorites in game 1. They're going to be double-digit favorites in game 2, win or lose. Yep. So Boston's up 2-0. You go back to Cleveland. Even if the Cavs are winning in game 3, you think they're beating the Celtics twice in a row?
No, absolutely not.
Bickerstaff doesn't win on the road, so the Celtics would close it out in 5 at the least. I am shocked, quite frankly, at what I'm seeing on my screen right now. Yes, I already
take it now. And there you got it here. BP, tell the guys what you got going on at WagerTalk.com as well.
Yep, we have a 4% best bet tonight in the NBA. It is my only client selection. How have we been doing in the NBA? The answer is quite well. 4 straight winners, 15-5 playoff run. Number 1 at WagerTalk the last 30 days in the NBA, hitting 74% overall. And you want to go back further, it's an 84, 55-2 run, up nearly 70 units since last year's finals. So we're seeing it the NBA has been very kind to us, Joe, for a very long period of time. And I intend on continuing that. So WT.buzz/BP for tonight's 4% best bet.
All right, let me just throw Terry Coker out here. Outstanding stuff, Terry, jumping in to the chat room here. And get a load of this, BP. Ready?
Oh, no.
He is he's going to the alternate market. We love guys that jump in and go to the alt lines. Outstanding. He is laying 10 for Denver for plus money. And he's going to look to take the Pacers team total under. So sounds to me we got a Denver Knicks money line combo going on in there. It's going to be a little chalky tonight, Tori, is what I'm seeing from you here. Andrew G also says that the Celtics. Listen, the only team that can beat the Celtics from this point on are the Celtics. So as long as the Celtics get out of their own way, they'll be just fine. Rick J in the house. Rick J says, yes, and the C's did own Cleveland this season. They're going to own them again in the postseason, by the way. DiVincenzo, let's see, MPJ, Tatum, all over 2.5 threes, plus 277. Like that, actually. That's not a bad look. Let's see, Celtics 4-0, Raven Ron says, get that dollar store broom out because it's coming one way or the other. And right now, it's at plus money. So you better hurry up and grab that because once that series starts, it is over here. John Finley trying to figure out, riding the Wolves +7, it looks like, is where he's going. And once again, it looks like Gobert still questionable as the new report is coming out here. Still questionable, but the props are still live. So he's going here tonight. If not, get ready for a lot more Nas Reed here. Also, just want to send one more. Jokic over 1.5 threes at plus money. I don't know what else. He don't hit 2 threes here tonight. Minnesota, you better play him on the money line because they're going to blow out the Denver Nuggets on their own home court here. What do you got, BP?
Oh, no, I thought this was new, but it's not. He wasn't present at shoot-around, Gobert, but that was the same report. As soon as he was listed as question, that's why he was listed as questionable. I think that's when everyone began to figure things out. I apologize there. I thought that said 3 minutes ago and we had a new update, but we did not. So.
Yeah. Well, that's those big lines that you kept talking about. They tend to get that going over there. Shout out again to Money in the House. We appreciate you. Trigger, AOD, Ralph in the house, Rick, you guys, Tori, welcome in, Andrew. Shout out to the day drinkers on Instagram. Always a pleasure to see you guys in here as well. You guys are outstanding. Yes, Andrew G, wife just had a baby, so I guess that's the personal reason. It's not a reason, I think, worth missing a playoff game. It was a Tuesday night game, but Jesus, they make, what with all the technology, you can't just, live stream that. Come on, you can watch it on the bench. You're good to go. Everything else good to go. Tori, be good. Cheshire Cat still working on some sort of voodoo soup recipe. I don't know what the hell's going on over there. It is time for us to go. Best of luck with all the plays here tonight, guys. Don't forget to hit that like button. Do not, AOD, forget to bet Pistons in 5. You guys are the best. We'll see you again tomorrow. Come back and join us. A lot more to discuss as we are off and running round 2 of the NBA playoffs. Until then, enjoy, guys. We'll see you again tomorrow.